Yes. So thank you so much for joining us. And once again, I welcome you. We have our expert speaker, Dr. Byju with us, and from GES, Dr. Jayendra Lakmapurkar, our director, is also joined us for today's webinar. So I officially hand over to Dr. Jayendra Lakmapurkar before taking more time. And thank you so much from all of you joining us today. And please type into the chat box from where you have logged in, from which area of India you are joining us today. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Hey, I welcome Dr. Byju, and thanks for agreeing to give this wonderful webinar. Dr. Byju is a distinguished marine biologist, coastal ecologist, and a field ornithologist. I must say that his work has played a vital role in advancing shorebird conservation and wetland protection in India. Affiliated with Center of Advanced Study in Marine Biology, Annamalai University, he has spent over a decade studying migratory shorebirds and coastal ecosystem. And particularly, his work is much concentrated around the Gulf of Mannar, which is ecologically significant regions of Central Asian flyway. So that explains how it is important, his work for the migratory birds. His pioneering research includes several field records of breeding and migrating seabirds, and those are one of the first records of shorebirds in South India. While his scientific contribution has supported wetland conservation, Ramsar site, and biodiversity policy initiatives in collaboration with, of course, government. That is a huge contribution, and we are lucky to have such a speaker. He has more than 70 peer-reviewed publication, acclaimed books on wildlife conservation. He has done extensive research, outreach and training program. Dr. Byju continues to bridge science, conservation action, community engagement across India. And I must say, he's a part of our team because he was a winner of Smuksha Memorial Awards practicing category in 2025. And that was the first time when we interacted, and it was a nice talking to you, Dr. Byju, at that time. And I'm really looking forward to this webinar. This is all. And I welcome all participants. Okay, over to Dr. Sonia.
Thank you, sir. And before wasting time, we welcome our winner of last year, winner of Hasmuksha Memorial Awards, Dr. Baiju. And we are known to start on time. So, sir, please start the presentation. We are waiting for the wonderful insights.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. J. Puneji. It was a pleasure last year to get the GES award. I mean, as we know personally, but Dr. Sonia knows personally, that there was no plan to go there. She actually pushed me to come, and finally it so happened that I became the winner of that award. And I'm so thankful. I've told this thanks many times, but still, in front of all the participants, it will be better that they know that people who works get some recognition somewhere in the other part of India. So that helps us work better with a good passion and move forward, finding more and more things. Anyway, thanks a lot for inviting me to this webinar, which again, I am very poor in webinars. I'm good in personal interactions. That's what I think. So let me try my best in a webinar this evening. So can I start with the subject, or should we wait a few more minutes for someone to come? Okay. So welcome you all. I can't see any one of you, but I hope people can see me and see the slides on the table. I mean, the laptop on the screen. So hopefully, my topic which was given to me, or rather it was asked from me, is to talk about my subject, which is shorebirds. I hope people understand what shorebirds are, and also people understand what birds are. So I'm assuming that you are basically knowing shorebirds. And starting with that, I'll give insights into certain things when we go across slides. So the title is Wings Across Borders, Scaling Local Shorebird Research into Global Conservation Blueprint. So basically, we start with wings across borders. That means these birds doesn't need a visa ticket to fly over countries and continents. They come every year, they go back to India. So how our work locally will influence this birds which are crossing. That is what I will take my case study from what we have been doing for the last 10 years in the Gulf of Mannar region, which is in Tamil Nadu, in the south. So how this can connect to a global flyway concept or global shorebird research. That is the point I'm going to go. Sorry. So that was a glimpse of how a wetland looks from an aerial view. You will see a bit of water inside, bit of shores outside, with a bit of grasses or small plants inside. If you could put it, some greens inside. This is how it can be mangroves, it can be anything else. Just to make you understand, rather than just giving some thoughts or words to see how it looks like. Anyway, what happens if this wetland disappears? Just think for a minute. A migration route of these birds, which crosses countries and continents, breaks. So that is where we come to the basic point of biological diversity. Why you have to act locally with a global impact. So basically, it starts with your own wetland, your own wherever you live, you have a small water body or wetland. If that wetland is gone, it means the connecting link of that flyway for the birds to migrate every time from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere and back to the northern hemisphere will break. So this is basically the understanding of how a small wetland in your own region is very important for the birds to live every year. So that is where this concept of biological diversity, international day, which we are talking today, acting locally for global impact. It involves protecting the habitats, engaging the local communities to do that for a sustainable future. So whichever wetland you see, that is actually a wetland which can hold the world together. If, as the previous slide which was seen, there have been uh, connecting links, if we could put it that way, or like connecting spots for the birds to migrate, come, settle down, then move to the next. So these invisible wetlands holds the world together. And most of these world wetlands are biodiversity landscapes where which most of them are not even still recorded in the global map of biodiversity assessment for birds. So our work actually involved highlighting these what you call as unknown or unrecognized waterbird populations in wetlands and making those blind spots convert into biodiversity hotspots by scientific study. So what happens basically is when you save a flyway, you actually start by saving that mudflat or wetland there. So when you save one small flyway, I mean wetland in your area, it means you are saving that entire flyway for the birds to survive. So can you see this? There, I mean, if you look at that right side map, these birds migrate from the northern hemisphere, which is basically for us from the Siberian region of Russia, and it ends up in our study area, which is the Gulf of Mannheim. So this, I mean, it's not a straight line where birds comes. I just wanted to show you that it comes this way. That's it. So this is the distance where you see a bird. So if we see a bird in our area, like Gulf of Mannheim or somewhere in Gujarat, it means that bird is coming from, that bird doesn't belong here. It belongs to some other region. It is coming from those regions, and those birds are visiting us twice every year. That they will come for after the breeding season, and they will go back after the breeding season. That is how it works. So any bird which we see is a bird which has migrated to almost thousands of kilometers. So if any local link breaks, it's a global chain that is also broken. So that is how it goes. And now you see the left map. That is the point where we work. It is between India and Sri Lanka. On one side you have the Gulf of Mannheim, on the other side you have the Parkway, and those are the areas where we work. I'll get into the details. And very importantly, you should understand birds basically are the health indicators of any wetland. So shorebirds is no exception. So the presence and absence of different shorebirds or different types of shorebirds, that is basically based on their feeding habitat, foraging habitat, habits, and also they also the beak length. I mean, for people who doesn't understand those things, there are plovers, there are robbers and things like that. So some of the beak length is much higher. I mean, much longer means it can probe deeper into the substratum, is very soft and it can probe deeper. If it is very small alone, it can just surface feeding. Just to make you understand, I mean, I'm not going into the details of that. I'm just conserving myself into the conservation part of it. So any presence and absence of any particular group or groups of shorebirds is a real indicator of the global, of the local wetland, which is basically a report for the health report for the global ecosystems. Why is that? As you've seen in the previous slides, birds migrate from the northern hemisphere. Again, it comes to the southern hemisphere. So it passes through different wetlands. So the presence of those wetlands, if you see both the photos, on the left side, you can see thousands of birds doing breeding in a sandbar in one of our regions. And on the right side, you can see how these things have been developed. This was a sandbar, which was recently developed into a new highway, which you see thousands of people visiting as tourists now. So, I mean, this is the conversion which is happening. So one wetland loss is the loss of the birds pathway. So basically, the most fragile ecosystems are the least protected one. This is what we have to see. So this is where we do our work, which is a marine biosphere reserve. That's the first marine biosphere in India. And in South Asia also. Anyway, we have it's also an important biodiversity area. We have different type of habitats like lagoons, Polynotum, Dhanushkodi, Polynotum, 3 major lagoons in those areas. And Karangad is a mangrove area. And we have 21 coral islands, which actually extends from the district of Annamalai to Thoothukudi. So there are 21 islands, 7 into 3 groups of islands based on the nearest land. That is how you do it. And also we have the sandbars. You can see that the island extending from the Tamil Nadu region, tip of it extends to Rameshwaram. The Rameshwaram Islands, where the former President APJ Abdul Kalam was born. And from there, 17 kilometers is Sri Lanka. So we are in that triangular area of Sri Lanka and India, where birds migrate. These are the areas where we do, and we also have 5 bird sanctuaries. These are areas where you have a lot of waterbird breeding populations. So these are the areas where we work basically. And we are looking at the changes which has happened over in this landscape for almost 40 years, 4 decades. It's the first study in this area has happened from 1987 to 89 by Dr. Balachandra, BNHS, who happens to be one mentor. So when you look at those areas and those times till now to 2026, what are the changes which has happened? And that is how we have transformation of ecology has happened in this. That is how we are able to see changes in those, even if it is not a continuous, but discontinuous periods of studies. You get a clear feeling or a legible account of ecological changes which has happened over a period of time. So we look at important landscapes of present and what was the important landscapes which the 85 to 87 studies have done, and how the shorebird assemblages have changed over a period of 4 decades. What are the important waterbird breeding areas now and what were the breeding areas earlier? And also, there were no seabird breeding record earlier, even though there were like minimum what assumptions saying that it could be possible and things like that. Even in Salim Ali's period of 1985, there were records saying that it might be there. But we had recently, like in the last 2 years, we have confirmed breeding records from the Adams Bridge, which connects between India and Sri Lanka. And habitat shift, which has happened over a period of time, is mainly because of Neltuma juliflora has taken over Prosopis, which is Prosopis older name. And now we are seeing a lot of scavengers. Like if you look at scavenging population, the most scavenging population we are looking at is crows have come into certain areas. Black kites are taken over because of the dumping waste and things. Anyway, I'm coming to it. And one interesting story is about Hanuman plover, which I will be telling later. I just wanted to say this. So uh, where the conservation starts is the conservation starts when you document thoughts, when you start documenting, observing, starting doing it. So someone started in 85 and he's not working in that landscape anymore. And someone is doing it in 26. And after me, definitely someone will do in 2046 or 2056. So if you have a record of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you will very well know what all things have changed on the ground, on the field. And that will really help the policy makers of those times to decide on how to proceed further with node conservation without damaging the environment. So our first challenge was to find out what I call as blind spots. Blind spots are nothing but I will call it as data deficiency spots. Because there is not much of data. If you look at, for example, when you look at tiger conservation, we always talk about tiger reserves. So you should also understand there are tigers outside the tiger reserves, which live very peacefully without any problem with public. So I mean, the point is when you look at those blind spots or lesser studied areas where you don't have much of or even lesser known species in that matter, because all these spots have got good biodiversity, which has not been represented in your usual work of earliest times. So we are trying to identify those spots which has good populations of shorebirds and convert those into hotspots in the global conservation models. So that has been, this part has been overlooked by either by science or by policy or by protection. Now we are doing the data deficiency coverage and we are making those areas more popular by identifying more, putting more science into it, publications into it based on science and just making those national and internationally important places. One of those regions is Walinokam salt pan, which is actually a man-made salt pan, if you could call it as a wetland. It's a man-made one. And the other one is a natural lagoon, which is Danishkodi, which is the end of the Kameshwara Island. Walinokam has never been studied before. I think our team started in 2016 those studies, and we have published first data on avifauna, then followed by shorebird data. And interestingly, if you look at the right side, that all of the major wintering sites in the Central Asian flyover, Danishkodi and Walinokam, you can see that the avian species were recorded 147, 154. Shorebirds is 37 and 34. Certain species is 10, 3, 15, here also 11, 14. The number of annual shorebird abundance is more than 20,000 and 1% of BGP, that is about the geographical population of a flyway, is 6 species. So the point is there are different ways to look at it. When you are an observer, when you are doing research, or when you are look at these things. One is you count the number of birds on either side over a period of years. We did for 4 or 5 years continuously, and this is the data. So, I mean, if you do it for 4 or 5 years, you know how many is the maximum. Like just like the growth curve. If there is a plateau, then you know that it won't go beyond that. So that's a figure. Second one is look at the number of shorebirds. Even though it is 37 in Dhanishkodi, in Valinokam is 32, the point is Dhanishkodi with 37 has more diversity because it is a natural. Valinokam is a man-made one. So you have consistent salinity, consistent food. There is no much of change in those. Look at the threatened species. There is also not much of a change, but the diverse species also might have a new species also. Like it may not be the same 32 which you see in the export. It might be different because the export has different microhabitats. And I mean, anyway, coming to the point of annual show, the abundance and the 1% BGP, these are basically the criteria for declaring these are Ramsar sites. So these two sites, which has not been declared officially protected earlier, Valinokam is still not officially protected. Dhanishkodi is recently protected. So these two sites has 3 or 4 criteria under the Ramsar site following. And that is not a 1 year study, it's a 5, 6 years continuous study, and we're still continuing the study. So my point is, if you do some, and of course, we have a 4,000 plus greater flamingo population in Valinokam site, which is very rare downside things. These are areas where we have more insight into the ways we look at science on the ground. So what impact it has made is in our studies is, as I said, when you look at unprotected areas, or areas which have not been studied well or been officially declared, our studies on Tirthangal Bird Sanctuary, you can see the species number, how many water birds are there, what are the breeding water birds, the threatened species, all those things are there in the slides itself. So I'll just say the overall picture of it. Tirthangal Bird Sanctuary is already a sanctuary. As I said, there are 5 bird sanctuaries in this one district of Tamil Nadu, and this is the highest in anywhere in Tamil Nadu. And interestingly, this we did study on the breeding water birds of those sites for the last 3-4 years, and we gave the report and we pushed it, and finally was declared it as a Ramsar site in 2025. And coming on to Karangarh, when we started our study, it was declared as an ecotourism to that site. It is not. It is basically a fish landing center, just small things. But our studies have pushed a lot of things into it. So people started monitoring things like that. There are good gulls and terns populations over there because fishes are there. Of course, they get a lot of fruits, and sometimes flamingos also land in those regions. Now, Karangarh is being considered for a community reserve protection. We are pushing it. Hopefully, we have that. And another important unknown, even undeclared, even in other scientific forums like you don't even find much in that sickle. We accidentally, when we have to take a deviation for a survey, we went through another route and we found this place, and we started documenting it for 1-2 weeks. We published a paper that has got into the hands of forest department, or they have asked for us what to do and things like that, and we proposed to maybe it might be another community, so some sort of protection status may come. So these are areas where you have to observe, you have to understand, and you have to do what we call as documentations. As I said, data deficiency is a conservation threat. So what we should do is we should generate it. We can talk like that it has happened, it is happening there, it is happening here. You can make reels, you can make comments and things like that. But once you have a data, that deficiency of data is gone, and that the data becomes a scientific one, proper inferences, and you get it published, and you just push it, the published one, to either a court or the government or the policy makers. Definitely it will happen either today or tomorrow. But because the data is, why I am talking this is 40 years before someone did some data from our client. That is still available. So it is the benchmark for us to assess what we are doing now, whether we are doing it right, whether the conservation is right, whether conservation has gone bad, or policies have done good or bad. All these things can be assessed because there is a data someone produced 40 years before. This is where we have to learn how to document when you start seeing things. So basically, we started with field research, as I said. We mapped and studied all the 21 islands and as the three critical lagoons, which are served mangrove forest and all the 5 bird sanctuaries over the last 10 years. And because of that, we got a lot of collaborations with external international researchers, which has helped us to bring this to a different level. And many of those areas we're trying to push from non-protected status to some sort of conservation. Don't believe that sanctuaries will help or Ramsar sites. That's not the point. The point is, if you push for that, people will have a assessment in their own mind. People are not fooled. Like, I mean, can't fool everyone every time. So people will have a thought like, okay, this is a conserved site in our area. We have to conserve it. We have to keep it protected. We don't have to throw waste into that or garbages and things like that. So all these small maps and things are of 40-year data, how we have filled it over the top 40 years of decades of work. And I mean, we first usually publish papers in those critical islands and things. So coming to the basic thing of how a local action in your wetland or study, how it makes a global impact. So this is where actually people have to really work hard in the sense. If people have the passion to do it, rather than getting fame in a day or two or a month or a year, if you have a real passion, burning your stomach to do certain things without the like, passion of only earning money, you need money, of course. Yeah. Passion of earning money, then you will end up only in checklists if you are doing the up. That is what is happening in citizen science. The data which we see in citizen science today is basically people go for birding. They will put in the checklist, whether it is eBird, whether it is iNaturalist, or any other citizen science platforms. So we end up just doing it. You become the number one eBirder. You get lifers, you get month, whatever names you put it in. But what beyond it? Have you ever assessed how many birds come serve? Why these birds come serve? Why we need to save these birds? Is there any checklist which says we have to do those things, either in iNaturalist or eBird or any other format? I'm not blaming anything. I'm just asking you to think of whether we are here to make a checklist race, which is a rat race, like I am the eBirder of, say, Vadodara or any other place, or I am the eBirder of Gujarat, I am the eBirder of Tamil Nadu. Is that the way we have to look science? Is that the way we have to look into conservation? We have to actually think in those terms. Of course, it has advantages, like you will see the distribution, you will see the extent of bird moving and also area of extent of its, I mean, its area of distribution and things. You can also have a good analysis of trends of migration if it is a migratory bird or a distribution of its, how the distribution of its habitat and things like that. And also there are areas where, as I said, previous slides, there is a place called Sickle. You have new potential sites of birds which you can do. And if someone is interested in their own landscape and they wanted to work and they can make it a globally recognized or a nationally recognized conservation. But the limitations with these, what I call as checklist science is, it is basically limited to checklists. Like you will make a list of what is there and that's the end of the story. You don't bother whether they are coming tomorrow, whether they are coming day after tomorrow, whether they're coming next year. No one is bothered. They just want a checklist. That's it. And it doesn't have a proper peer review. I mean, I'm very sad to share this. In most of the department surveys, with a lot of new people coming in, we are seeing a lot of people writing birds which they don't even have heard of. So we have to have people who understand those landscapes or understand those species to say whether they were there or not. So it requires a proper scientific review. Otherwise, it becomes just a data for checking lists. Then another thing which we see recently is like most of these nest sites have been revealed, which can actually, like initiate a bit of jealousy in the photographer. People, so they will be like, we wanted to do photography, we wanted to. And even in protected areas, poaching will also be initiated. Those things has to be taken care of. So, biodiversity is not a checklist. It's a responsibility for us. When we go into the field, we should understand it is not an easy task. It is not an easy things to do. So we have to understand these are not checklist. These are all. So we have actually transformed from a checklist era to an ecological. Earlier it was only a species list, observations, records, and data collection. That was what we were earlier, like if you look at say 15, 20 years back. Now the era has changed. Like we are more into habitat protection, ecological monitoring, conservation action plans, and how we make policies or how we influence the policies about the scientific data. So this is where you have to start yours because citizen science initiative from the checklist to the responsibilities for citizen science. So some of our breakthroughs, which we have done in GOM, or Local Shorebird International, the first record of light mantle animals, basically seen on Australia and the African coast, but this is first time we have seen in 2022. And I think in 24 they have another albatross record in Australian. So this is the first in not only in Asia, it is Asian Oceanic first. And other important records is of we have done the discoveries of sea breeding, sea terns breeding in the Adams Bridge. Adams Bridge is the chain of sandbars which connect between Sri Lanka and India. There are around 9 sandbars. After that, you end up in Sri Lanka. And I think most of you might have read the news of people being shot by the fishermen from Indian fishermen being shot by the Sri Lankan Navy. So with like in 6 to 7 years of solid efforts with the department and convincing people and things, finally we managed to get into those areas 2 years before, and we got some very good records of 5 terns like little terns, Saunders tern, Lucy tern, greater custard on sooty terns breeding along with the lesser nulli. This was a very new record. Lesser nulli is the first time in India, when including if you take Lakshadweep and others. So these are all new to science, new to the area, but consistently, if you do pursue with your perseverance, all those qualities should. So research or scientific conservation passion should have continuity, perseverance, and also, of course, a lot of other factors will come if time permits until 6. And we just push this to the common audience to make them understand which are the areas which are good. The Hanuman Plover story will come later. Some both in local and supers, and some of those even got in international. The albatross thing was taken by the government or conservation albatross in Paris in Canada. They put it in the website and things. So there comes the Hanuman Plover story. Hanuman Plover is one of the plovers, the smallest plovers. It's basically a subspecies of Kentish plover, which was elevated as a new species in 2023 by the analysis work, molecular and genetic analysis work of the Sri Lankan side, or the other side of it. It is endemic to the peninsular India, which happens to be from Karnataka down to Tamil Nadu, again from Tamil Nadu to Atlantic. But most of the breeding records which we got, we have the map, which is mostly restricted to the areas which we study, because there's not much of a study which has gone into that. And these are the important breeding locations which is in the map. And the point of conservation of this small bird is whether we can make this small shorebird flagship species of the entire Central Asian flyway. If I come to flyway, there are 9 flyways where shorebirds migrate, and we belong to Central Asian flyway, which is the smallest flyway, which has 30 countries, and India is one of the largest countries in the Central Asian flyway. So Hanuman plover as a flagship species of this Central Asian flyway is a dream for us. We may not know whether it will happen today, whether it will happen tomorrow, or whether it will happen after 10, 20 years. But the first step has been taken, and hopefully people will push for it. For that, that is what I said. When you do research, pushing these things to the limelight of national and international policymakers, including our local forest department, bureaucracy, and politicians, you have to do, because patient to the core. You can't get any decisions across the table as you get in a WhatsApp message. You type something, the response will come in a second or minute. It doesn't work like that. It takes days, months, years to go, sometimes even decades. So you have to grow that patience to do certain things in a policy level. Second thing is you have to bite your tongue, you have to be silent at times, you have to do everything what you want to do, but you can't say anything. These are situations where you face in your life and you approach bureaucrats who are very egoistic. Politicians will never understand science. I'm not saying everyone is like that. But between hundreds, you might find one or two people who will be really interested in your work. Maybe after 5 years, maybe after first year, maybe after 10th year. If you have the patience and if you have the passion to continue this, sometimes you don't have money even. You have to push, you have to fight. And those areas are the areas which actually gives satisfaction to people who really works. So sometimes you will be recognized when you never expected. And that recognition is a huge one, which actually drives us to do further, further, further. So this is one of our dreams to make Annamalai as a flagship species. This could actually unite all the 30 countries in CAF, make it as an icon of the CAF, which can also bring India and the flyway back to attention, also get more funds for research, not only for the species, even for the water birds. So I'll just show a small video of Hanuman plover from one of our sites. Okay. This is from a non-protected area. We are trying to bring this back to the protected status. But it is very tough because some other government agencies have some issues and things going on. We will try our best to do that. Uh, anyway, someone looking into our paper has filed a PIL, Public Interest Litigation in the High Court of Chennai, which has a bench in Mumbai, and that case has been taken up. If that case goes on well, actually we don't have any role in that. They just quoted our paper and it went. Now, if that happens and if the High Court gives a positive ruling into it, this may become a protected, and we are just trying for it. This is another protected area. Again, we have a one species ready. I just a 1 week old chick. So now we have an idea of what we're doing and what are the challenges. So our mission was to conserve these shorebird habitats. thereby conserving the species. So what are the challenges we faced? First was, as I said, slowly the area is becoming more and more into tourism, especially Rameshwaram, as you know, it's most of religious tourism. So heritage tourism is one major threat. So you leave everything from your life, including your clothes or everything into the sea. It all comes back. So the substratum is filled with all waste which were thrown back to the sea. And of course, now we have more and more people visiting those areas because of more and more people visiting those areas. Tourism is developing. Another challenge which we actually face is the because of tourism, people started shops. So shops comes. This is an area where in 1964, one of the storms has actually swept the entire island. So there was no human existence as what you call as there is no human existence forever in the people. It only people can go there and they have to come back to food, especially the fishermen. But now what has happened is this area is getting shops. So naturally dogs are coming and all the other related human friends have come. So that is actually facing a lot of pressures on the birds over there. So the basic question we have is, should we allow the vehicles to come to this area where there were no vehicles and roads before? As I said, they filled up the sandbar and constructed a road for almost 6-7 kilometers. So if at all the vehicles will come, how many vehicles can we allow? Will we do with 100,000 or 10,000 per day or 1,000 per day, whatever it is? These are all things which came to our mind. So we actually started assessing it. So weekdays it was around on an average 500 vehicles, including the local ones. Weekends it went up to 1,000. So we assessed the number of tourists. It was around 2,000 to 4,000 per day every week, and it went up to 8 lakh per year. That is what a stretch of around 7 to 10 kilometers and hold, but there is no human permanent settlement. So basically, the ecology collapsed not suddenly. It collapsed vehicle by vehicle, people by people, tourist by tourist. So this is how we got to. So it all started actually with one small noticing which we did when we went to the end part. This is the end part of it. The other side is a sandbar, and the other side is Sri Lanka. The end part is known as Arichal Mune. Mune is tip. Arichal means the sand will be, washed away by. This is one of our trips. So just see, it's in Tamil. The conversation is in Tamil. I'll just update it once it is over. So the point what is being said is this is a sandbar which has been converted slowly into a road. The thousands of birds used to come. Now that is gone. Now the people are coming in. They're throwing the entire waste into the region. And the waste basket is clean. All the waste is thrown out. So this is the first step we noticed in one of our visits in those areas. That is the reason I'll go back to the old slide. We started looking at how many vehicles can come, how many people can come, what are the challenges with, what is the area we went. So what I am saying is conservation should start with noticing those things, and it becomes more meaningful when it changes the outcomes. So this small research of the tourism impact, or what you call as carrying capacity in one sense, we then collaborated with the forest department, tried our best to convince, give them data about all those things. And finally, they started establishing a plastic checkpost way ahead of this point. That means around 10 kilometers ahead of the entry point. So once that plastic checkpost came, they paid fees of around 20 rupees or for this thing, and volunteers used to tell that don't bring plastics, they will take the plastics out and things like that. So the policy has changed because of research involving the local community, where they are also belonging to that region, and it lessened the threat of threats. I'm not saying it has mitigated; it has lessened the threat, leading to a better protection. Meanwhile, when these all things happened, one of our researchers research on the flamingos in those areas were accepted, and it went. Danish body has declared as a flamingo sanctuary in between these two. So what I said is, if you're consistent, meaningfully working with scientific data, peer reviewed, accepted by experts, and accepted by the department, if you push slowly, don't expect results in a day or two, or a month or a year. It may happen when the department has money, when there are no good officers, wait for the opportunity. You may get some good results. And as I said, what are the benefits for the other people? Forest department, they had good information, data without any work. For the local communities, their livelihood has improved because there is no plastics and water means more fish and other things for them. And their economic opportunities is much better. They don't have to cut their net having all this waste inside. And for policymakers, you are allowing, giving them data, scientific data, assessed data to declare that as either good sanctuary, conservation reserve, or a Ramsar site, or whatever. And for global science, it means you are assessing data from areas which has not been in record in the global Shorebird map. So how do we do it? First and foremost, basically we are field. So any field research should have basically people from the local community involved. Without them, you can't do conservation. So that was the first step which we did. We interacted, we learned a lot of things from them, and then we try to understand what they are doing and things like that. And we actually changed our path of research, even if it is pure science research. We had some social impact, conservation implication factors on those to understand what is happening. And naturally, our implementation partners and forest department, we tried to interact with them from the local anti-poaching watcher to the DFO, which is the wildlife. Sometimes even if the conservationist and things, it depends on who is interested and how they see all those things. And naturally, this area became more interested for people from outside the country, and nationally, so they started asking many things, and so collaboration happened between us. We shared, we learned a lot, they learned a lot. So slowly this becomes an outreach to people, education institutions and administrations. That is why the plastic waste has come. There are a lot of boards which has come up. Because those areas you still have polyphenol turtles coming and nesting in thousands, or sometimes we have even records of photograph records of polyphenol turtles being eaten by dogs, stray dogs, eggs being taken by people as well as dogs. So these are all help like patrolling of, I mean, this is not part of show, but I'm just saying it's an outfit of all these things, and people are actually working on patrolling, picking up eggs and having hatcheries for turtles. That has also improved a lot in the last decade. I'm seeing two slides that recognize four criteria of Ramsar site declaration. Even though it's a short one, man-made one, it's going to be one of the best shorebird areas in the world. And final note, my acknowledgement goes to my team. The one who's sitting right to me is a leader who has been with me for more than 10 years. And the one who's on the left is my team. She's been with us for the last 3 years. She's learned a lot of nuances of she's in the unknown breeding biology and sea turtles. And I also thank the in my late division, not first department, also for my national and international developments.
Sir, your voice, can you be a little bit louder? Like it's difficult for us to hear you.
Not able to hear or?
Yes, now far better.
Okay. So what I said is just thanked all these guys for people like our Ravindran and Maitreyi, then Development or Wildlife Division, Government Forest Department, and National Insurance Operators, along with my University and Annamalai, and Wildlife Information Housing Department. They are also attached to the. So thanks a lot for listening to it. I'm sorry towards the end. There was only 2-3 slides, but hopefully you might have enjoyed it. So conservation starts with noticing. Data deficiency is not conservation. So start. Thank you.
Sonia?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir. So you
I'm
can
done.
stop sharing your screen. Probably it will increase the bandwidth from your end and we'll be able to connect more better with you.
I think you can start question and answer session.
Yes, and thank you so much for the wonderful talk and our all the participants who stayed with us till now. The platform is now open for question and answers. You can directly ask your questions by unmuting yourself, or you can also put into the chat box. So now the platform is open for Q&A. Any questions to Byju sir regarding any of the things? Sir, are you still able? Are you still struggling with that thing?
I think towards the end they lost the flow.
All right. The platform is now open for Q&A. Any questions with respect to conservation? Why only this bird? And as sir has said, regarding the questions regarding citizen science, anything. So the platform is open. You can put it in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and directly ask.
Okay. Was there any question? I didn't hear actually.
No, there was no question. And of course, you can put your views about the talk, anything. Okay, so we have a question. He is telling, thank you so much, Dr. Byju. Of course, you should pay gratitude to the speaker for the wonderful talk. Okay, Sonika is asking, sir, what's the response of local communities towards conservation initiative by you and your team?
It's very difficult to say in a word. It depends on the region. Working in multiple regions in that. People are very progressively approaching it. Like children, for example, they used to trample eggs or take eggs of these young nesting birds. So it was easy to convince them. We will take them whenever we go there, we prefer the medium hours. Size of the moment, 15, 16, 17. So now when we go there, they'll say, no, this is all that gear, this is all that gear. That's been one of the things which you see. I think areas of work and the people who are involved also makes an impact. Two areas, they look at us very suspicious. If it is declared as protected status, they can be not having access. Their livelihood will be impacted and things like that. We are trying to convince them in the best possible ways whenever we can just having the way things and things. So we can be forest officials if we come along with this. It's difficult, but at times I think children are much better and that might have an impact on the future. So yeah, I think I've answered it.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I request you, like, you can put your mic a little bit closer to your mouth because of something. It's very difficult to understand actually your words very clearly. But I'm sure. Sonika, did you got the answer? You can put into the chat box or you can unmute your own self.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sonika, for a wonderful question. And we have another question. Yeah, we have a question. What advice would you like to give for anyone who is interested in joining this field, especially the shorebird conservation?
First and foremost is patience to understand, to learn, then passion. That is much more important than patience. You don't get much money here, much fame here. You don't get treated as a person who was working on tigers or elephants. You the same. You find something extraordinary for other people to look at. So you have to have those passion and patience first. Sometimes even after doing tons of work or years of donkey works in the field and publishing anything, still humiliated by an officer who doesn't know anything. So you have to carry it out. It's a burden, but leave it and move. This decisions comes out of practice, experience, and I also think people who are really good at field will not go into this. They just ignore them. So we have to learn those out of handling bureaucrats, lower officers, the communities, as well as even higher bureaucrats and politicians, if you want to really make a policy push. That is what we have learned. I think we are still learning.
Thank you, sir. Tanuja is telling, thank you, Dr. Byju, for the critical insights on the ecological significance of peninsular coast and for salvaging the habitats to secure flyways. And she's also, a person is also asking, are there any volunteering opportunities where one can assist the team and learn?
At present, we don't have. We just connect with us. Our mail ID is there. So you can send a mail. And if there is something, possibly we are looking for a few people for the next project. And if that comes, then we are really interested. We have a. But you can still do some of the works in your own area and get it published. Data deficiency will become data excesses. That is also a possibility for me. So working with us is you can do it remotely from your place. You can still be a hand with it.
Tanuja, I'm sure you got the answer. Raghavendra is telling it was informative session. Thank you, Raghavendra. And Tanuja is asking, kindly let me know if there is, I'm interested in joining. I'm sure Tanuja, Dr. Byju has given his email ID to you. You can connect to him directly for such opportunities. Any further question? Sir, I would like to ask one very critical question, critical question from me to understand actually. You talked about the citizen science and you also told that citizen science is mainly currently a checklist where people are not further entering into what happened to the animal or the bird or whatever the things they're documenting and not going into the deeper level of studies. And second thing, the issue you talked about was the authenticity of the data. That's very much there. And then the third issue comes for the copyright images between a professional wildlife photographer and anybody who's uploading into all these things. But my question over to you is that citizen science has limitations, we all understand, but how you cope up with this thing when the government itself is pushing the citizen science?
That's a very interesting debated question. I think we prepare a lot of panelists and few hours for that too. Yeah, in my opinion, I'll say very simply. Every government will look at things to be done in East. That is what the general trend is turning out to be. That is what I said. Because being a reviewer, being a subject editor of birds in few journals, the papers which comes to us clearly shows the understanding of the people who are in citizens. For example, I am tell the person what is species. 3 days or 4 days before, I think, no, the last week, I got a paper from Assam. Okay. They are found in new bird. They are saying that's the first record in Assam. The entire paper is based on the last 10 years of work and last 10 years of published data along with new bird. But that bird has been described in those areas in 1957 and 48 by Ali, Urdu, and these papers are already there. Unfortunately, the people who come to write these papers doesn't look beyond either or confirmation. That is what I said. Peer review requires proper scientific analysis and reading. So this data, if you reach it out to the government policy makers and tell them this is there, is not like before the bird, there is no bird. That is what we heard here now. It is not. There were birding before that. There were bird studies before that. It will continue to do that, even the cloud disrupts. Even the bird is gone. People will still continue to do this. So my point is, if you push a general data to a national level, there is no other tool available for us to push it to the national level. So you can't blame the people who push ego data or any sign of citizens. Otherwise, government will not do that. So that is the first part. So either you make a national what you call as system where you can upload everything, including the non-scientific and scientific. The point which I always have an issue with scientific data or citizen scientific times. The person with 30 years of experience and a person with 1 month of experience are treated the same way in that platform, which is absolutely nonsense. A person who doesn't know might ask, how did you see this? So that is why I say peer review concept. You can actually incorporate people with more knowledge in that and make that a better platform rather than restricting yourself into that well and saying, we are doing this. I'm not an ego. I'm not posted even a single post in my entire social media citizens of. I still survive with this much of papers and publications and policies. So you can still survive, but I use that to understand the different. I have discussed with a lot of people who said, a lot of my friends also said, I have no issue. You have to learn how to manage those data and also understand the limitations when you explain it to policy making. That's all.
Yeah, thank you so much. So do you think that there is a research or a panel needed to, or from the government side, to put on the ethical use or to put on some policy or the capping on the citizen science data? Because that is one tool which is utilized by many people to bridge the gap between that they don't know, or the bridge the gap between being a citizen and saving, or a responsible citizen by saving or documenting anything. That emotional connect is what the citizen science is playing the pathway for connection, which is actually an awareness.
I mean, citizen science is a good awareness tool. Has brought in a lot of lakhs and lakhs of people into the habit of bird watching, posting anything, any so that is absolutely normal. I'm not against it as per se. I'm not against citizen science. My only problem is you don't depend on that alone for policy making. You have to have people outside the citizen science also involved. It's the first part. Second part is, before the establishment of these applications and citizen science tools, which you claim as to be the best now, there were literature. There are still literature. Why you ignore those things? Why you ignore those studies and say that these are the only things that those are not? Before the advent of, for example, molecular biology or genetic analysis or species differentiation, how did you know about species? So those things people has to understand what is taxonomy basically, how the taxonomy is coming, what is the role of taxonomies. It's not like general taxonomies has gone, they're still there. There are very good taxonomies. They used to weigh, they used to measure, they used to see, they used to describe, sit in the field for hours together to understand some basic things of any organism or any species. Now you just go click. This is the bird. This is the particular species, and that's it. You go to A to A to say this is it. You accept it and go. You don't even analyze whether it's true or not. That is my problem. And if big organization, you know that almost all the organizations in India is pushing for it. They have their own interest, basically to get funds, basically to run their own organizations. You have to be vocal about this. If everyone is suppressing that, then the science will go somewhere.
That's true. But in a current age where the span is only 60 seconds, it's very difficult.
Exactly.
Anyways, we have a question from Paul, and I'm sure Paul is asking similar lines. I would like to ask why you think that the citizen science data would have less scrutiny and peer review than a peer-reviewed studies, given the most data in peer-reviewed publications are not open to public scrutiny and may be reviewed by one or three experts. The data itself is hardly reviewed, whereas citizen science initiatives like eBird have many regional viewers in addition to the public itself, scrutinizing the record on a regular basis and reporting to the viewer. So many citizen science lovers are there in the webinar.
True, very true. I accept that. What Paul is saying is perfectly right in one sense. My point was, I'm not against it. I have clearly mentioned in the slide, there needs to be good peer reviews in citizen science platforms, which is still not there. Why citizen science peer reviewers are only people who they like? Why they are not taking people from scientific platforms who are established or who are coming in, researchers, I mean non-researchers, like enthusiasts or conservation, who have good knowledge about those things are not being used there. That is my point. And second point is why they are ignoring other publications when you say, even if it is 2 or 3 peer reviews, in some journals it is even up to 10 reviews and 3 or 4 multiple revisions is so. When that critical analysis is happening in that place, why there is no critical analysis in this place? Why you have to give people awards to become best for a month or a year or area, whatever it is. If it is a normal peer-reviewed scientific process, why you have a rat race there? In research publications, you don't have a rat race, like you publish this material. That is not there. So that is the point I'm stressing. I'm stressing use it properly, use it in a better scientific way, involve everyone rather than restricting himself to your group. You are not a political group, you're not a religious group, you're a scientific group. And no science is ultimate, it's a penalty paper. Anyone who comes next will revise it. For example, as I said, we have records of little Nori from Rameshwaram Sandbar. That's the first record in India. Salim Ali worked there, Balajinder worked there. Doesn't mean they are small and we are big. Neither the next generation will come and they will discover something else. Doesn't mean that we are small. So that's a phase which you have to accept and move. You don't have to fight for citizen science if it is good. It will take its own course. Let it come with the scientific community and make it better. So that people who are just putting checklists will also understand the checklist itself is the benchmark for conservation. So that this much of lack of people can also involve in the conservation, which will actually change the face of biodiversity in the country. That is my point.
That's very true, sir. Absolutely correct. And I'm sure Paul is agreeing that. Thank you for the response. I do agree that the regional viewer selection is not really open and fair. Satish is asking, thank you. I'm a zoology student and a nature photographer. How to career with the nature and wildlife? Suggest some ideas.
For a photographer and a zoologist, you can do illustrations, photo books, and things like that. If you wanted to do research, you can even study with small organisms, not only birds. But a lot of opportunities there. Just keep searching for it. And definitely grow. Just think whether you have to end up in lab, photography, or field, or policy making, which branch of these areas you have to concentrate, which is interesting for you. There are a lot of areas where you get opportunities. Just keep searching. In today's world, opportunities are there. We don't know how to grab it. That's all. Don't rely on AI for making your CV first. That's the first and last thing you should do. You do right original things, people will take you.
Thank you, sir. Uh, One more question, like you talked about the shorebird. So what individually a person, my first A question is what data still you feel the gaps are there for shorebird conservation? And second thing, what as an institution or individual level person can do to contribute and to make that shorebird conservation to a global level?
I think I have not understood it fully. You are asking about how can a data of an
Uh,
area, I'm sure.
yeah, no, I was asking how an individual or an institution can contribute in their capacities for shorebird conservation from local to global.
Okay. So I've been explaining the same from us. We did a local work. For example, if you have a wetland around you, for example, any sort of wetland around you, just start watching birds in fortnight. Just keep a record of what you see. Identity of birds, as well as, I mean, if it is exclusively on shorebirds, you identify the shorebirds. It will be, you have juveniles, you have male, female, you have first year birds, wintering, wandering. So those things you learn and you just identify those birds. Keep a record of those things. And you also understand the micro habitats of the area. Whether they're sunflower proofing, flood proofing, whether they're proofing something else, noticing on the process, or depending on whether it's a lagoon or it's an inland wetland. And also, if you come across some other shorebirds, the ground nesting birds, and you start reading on those birds, you see, understand whether they're still there, whether the same bird, whether they're internal. So once you go through that, you understand the time of arrival and the time of departure. If they are staying again for a longer time, we call it as over summer. So those phenomena you start living. If you record it from that area, and if there is no record prior to that, then becomes the first record for the area. And if you have near the species, if the numbers versus thousands, as I said, you can put some criteria of analysis, evaluation of it. Just publish a paper or something, a big standard journal. I'm not saying big journal. There are good standard journals available. You can publish it. You can push that report to the local newspaper, then to the local forest department. Just push them to make those requirements without things you see. So they will try to put it in the conservation of the information standards. Involving the people. That is very much possible. You don't have to spend much money if it is very good. Publication also, there are a lot of people who helping and writing and making it. And anyone who actually wants to help writing or something like that, actually help with the exposure. Hope that answers it.
Thank you, sir. We have another question from Narayan Lal. He is asking how can research on feeding and breeding behavior improve bird conservation strategies?
One of the reasons is if you have a set of data on breeding and feeding, that shows feeding means the bird has got enough prey. So that is the first sign that wetland is a better one. So second is breeding. So it shows again the bird has a better security. So the bird will come back for the breeding. That is many of these birds are site-footed, so that means they come back to the same positions at the same land again. So that two things, if you continue for 2-3 years, if that research is put up, it is showing that the bird food at the bird is available. Security is available. So those are two indicators for the birds. Okay for him?
Thank you, sir. Any further questions before we wrap up the webinars? And you can also give your viewpoints. What are your takeaways? You can show your gratitude to the speaker. Anything into the chat box.
So I thank everyone for listening, and also hopefully a few people might have picked up some of the things. For anyone who wanted to interact either through Sunyaji or me, directly or through her, either for writing or field or something, whatever things I can help, I'm pleased to do that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Jendra, are you? Sir, Jendra, sir, over to you to officially close and thank the speaker.
Thanks a lot. Finally, we could end it successfully. All that ends well is good. Actually, yes, this wedders or shorebirds are a very critical species, because what as a citizen, common citizen, we understand, a wetland ecosystem is a water body, right? Species living in the water body, and then there are terrestrial species. We just don't think much about this wedders who survives on the bank of it. They are not purely water. They are not purely terrestrial. They try to survive on the their plover, or they survive on the bank of it. And what we are spoiling nowadays are bank of the wetlands. We are covering them with so many artificial materials, so that the bank is getting damaged, and that's how we are harming this weather. I remember one case. We have one studied, and almost 3-4 years we did survey of sociable lapping, wellness gregarious, which comes from Central Asia to the Gujarat, and it partly go to Africa also. So we had one study on. Initially, we saw a group of sociable lapping in the Banni, the run area, which is Kutch, very close to White Red, the Dordo. After that, Dordo got developed into a tourism spot, and we lost that habitat for the weather. So, for citizen science, my comment is that yes, sometime you have very critical findings, like some birds which are not you know not known put a particular area, and sometimes it is seen by the citizens, and he reported that there is this species available there, and it. But it's very important to record the habitat, which weather it was found, what was the temperature, which kind of canopy is there, or water body. Which So for citizen science, if they really want to become a serious reporter, I think this is also very important to record the habitat, you know, and particularly repeated visit and repeated observations are also very critical. So yes, all information is important, but if it is reported correctly, it is really very helpful for the conservation. I think a very good comment by Dr. Byju on citizen science, because it is necessary, but we should not give too much importance to it when it's come to critical scientific understanding, because it requires, when you want to understand a species, you need to know the habitat, you need to know the other species that are living in the area, because it's a basically trophic cycle, whether it is predatory species, or if it is a frutivorous, or it survives insectivorous. So that kind of information is very critical when it comes to understand a species. So I think thank you for so much for I support citizen science, but I also support that it should grow. It should grow into a good scientific movement. I think that is one understanding for Sonia for GES. If you really want to have some training sessions, we can have this training session for citizens, those who are doing citizen science, and we can orient them to how to make it more effective. So thank you so much for spending this time. Thank you, Sonia, for arranging all this, and thank you for all participants who showed their patience. There was some technical issues were there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And one
Have a nice
question
day.
with from my side. This Hanuman flower, I am hearing first time this. Why this Hanuman flower name is there? Is there any technical things?
This questions we have been listening from a lot of people here, especially in this political environment today. Actually,
Okay.
that name was given by the Sri Lankan scientists. We have absolutely no role in this. So it is actually a subspecies of Kentish flower, Annamalai sea blooming.
Yeah.
It has been elevated as a species. 2023 study with Naroshan et al. So that species, they name it as Hanuman flower because it is from the Indian main continent, from the Indian mainland. It landed in Sri Lanka. So they thought Hanuman in that sense, and they named it. So we didn't name it as such. We have absolutely no role. I'll just put my hands off on this.
Okay, great. It's good that somebody else is named it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we officially close, and so much of love is pouring for you into the chat box. I'll keep it open so that you can read it. And other people, you can log off. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next month in another webinar.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you for giving this opportunity once again. I'm thanking. I've already thanked for the award as well as the opportunity now. I still thank, and I'll be very close to my heart. GES. Anytime, please let me know what I can do for you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.